Hi, it's the silly moustache here, and to prove it, da-da-da-da, a cup of tea, essential in any workshop, and this is my modest workshop, come utility room, come storage area, etc. And this is where I change my strings and do other things related to guitars. And I'd just like to show you some products that I think are very useful and helpful. I know some people, I've had a friend who changes his strings sitting on a sofa with a guitar or whatever between his knees and things like that. It works. Doesn't work for me. I prefer to have a worktop. And a worktop needs a top, and it's for ages I've had a bit of old carpet or a towel there, but sometimes bits and pieces can get caught in it and can scratch the back of the guitars or whatever. So I have recently managed to acquire one of these. What is this? Well, it's just a container, but what it is, it's a container for a D'Addario work mat. And this is the wonderful thing. It looks a little bit like the sort of floor mat that you would use in the gym, but the top is much smoother. At the bottom it has very good grip on a worktop, and so it makes work an awful lot easier to lay your guitar this away. Okay? And once you're doing that, of course, you need something to hold the neck steady. Right, well, for a long time I have been using something that is now apparently called a headstand by D'Addario. It was an old Planet Waves thing that I had for possibly 20 years, but it got broken. And so now I have a lovely new headstand, and it's nice and positive. It folds like that. It goes in my little work box over there. Nice healthy clicks, and that holds on to the headstock of my guitar like that, because I need to have the headstock over the end of my worktop. Okie doke. So let's move on. There are other options. D'Addario also sent me this to try. This is a neck rest. And it's high density rubber, but I don't know how to use this because that doesn't fit into any of the neck widths of my acoustic guitars, but it might work if you're an electric guitarist or something like that. In the meantime, when I started to distrust my old headstand, I bought one of these very cheaply, and it does the work quite well, but it's bulky. Okie doke, we've done those. So then you're going to wind and unwind your strings. Well, unwind your strings, and then you're going to rewind the new ones. Duh, yes, okay. As well as something like this that I've had for a long time, which is a winder and a cutter. I've used this for years. I don't use this anymore, so I've taken that off. I've bought side cutters and things, and nothing performed the job as well as this. So I shall keep that in my workbox. Other options for winding are the tour grade. This is for professionals only, so if you're not a professional you can't use one of these. There you are. It's called the tour grade peg winder. It's in silicone, and so that being silicone around the end of the tuning pegs is quite good, and it has a magical little mini pin puller as well. Okay. I prefer to use a screwdriver, an electric screwdriver. So it's relatively slow revs, doesn't go too mad, right? I've been using these for years. I've got 2 of them, always sitting in a charging cradle. Now, this is not a D'Addario product. This is a D'Addario product, and it's much larger and it's quite hard, so I'm a bit wary about using that on my slotted headstocks. So I shall stay with the old Stewmac ones, and I put a bit of yellow on it. That's not part of the product, just black things get dropped and they're difficult to find, so a little bright colour on them helps. Okie dokie. Of course, if you're going to change strings and things like that, disasters can happen. I bought these for pennies some years ago. They're not great, but eyes are kind of important. So, you know, it's worth taking a few moments to have a little bit of protection on your eyes when you're working with things under tension and things that can come unwound and fly around. When you're taking pins off, of course, I find this invariable. This is a tiny little candle glass thing or something that I pinched from my wife, and I always put my bridge pins into there, so I've got something to stop them rolling about. And I'm going to talk about another brand that I am quite impressed with. We get concerned about humidity in our guitars occasionally, and the humidity mostly attacks extremes of humidity mostly attack the body and the top, and mainly the top. So there's a company called Music Nomad who make these things, and there's a lot of people that make things that can put in the sound hole. Very, very, very high density sponge in there, in distilled water in there, doesn't leak, needs a good squeeze, and things follow the instructions, and I use these. Now they've brought out something that combines both that and a hydrometer that will give you a reading of the humidity and the temperature. So they're quite useful. Not cheap. Talking of Music Nomad, when it's talked about pin pulling, removing pins, bridge pins from bridges, I've always been a bit worried about using anything that's got anything metallic on it next to the top of my guitar. This has solved my problem. This is a pin puller. Now, the way it works is a bridge pin slots in there, and this sits on the back of the bridge, a little silicone nub which just gives you perfect leverage. I think that's a great design. So you've got your strings on, you've replaced them, and you've taken them up to tension. Oh, you should have something to check the tuning's right, isn't it? And Dario have one of these things. I can't switch it on at the moment because I'm putting it on. There we go. This is a USB charging clip-on tuner. I've tried it. It's very easy to use. It's quick. I am rather heavily invested in TC Electronics tuners myself, but that is a nice tidy little tuner with lots of adjustments and things like that. So a good little product. Where was I going? For times when you think that there is too much humidity in your guitar or in your guitar case, I have long used these little things. They're not made for guitars or musical instruments. They're just a bunch of little beads that you put in the microwave, and then they get dark orange. And then you put them in. It's by a company called Control. And you just tick that. I put them under the headstock. You can put them behind the bridge, the neck block if you wish, and it absorbs humidity. Okie doke, where are we? Yes, checking your string height, the action. Do you know what your action is? I have been using something by Stewmac for a long time, and it looks like this. And when I bought it, probably 25 years ago, my eyes could actually focus on that. It's got a lot of good equipment, information. It shows you the action in thousandths of an inch, and it's got some even smaller things that I can't even read, and a good commercial conversion thing between fractions, decimals, and metric, it says. But Dario have improved on that product with this string height gauge. Like this. It's much more profound, it's heavier, thicker piece of steel, and I find it much easier to read. and that's good stuff. It's also got a little measuring thing. It's got a conversion chart on one side. It's got lots of other things which frankly I don't understand yet, and I'm a little bit worried about these sharp edges, so be careful with them. And you've got sort of screwdriver fittings here, but for reading your action, your string action, I think this is, whoops, a great product. So that's about all I wanted to tell you about, apart from some extra bits and pieces that I've added to my little toolbox. And one of them I think is really quite important, or actually two of them, because a small pliers, right, a needle nose plier and another one for bending the strings or for prising the strings off of the tuning machine, capstan and things. And another little thing that I found useful is my dental probe for removing the strings from around the capstan. Just a little bit of thought there. So there you go, that's some of the stuff in my... Oh, I wanted to say something else. Once you've got the strings on and you've tuned them up and you've used your D'Addario tuner, if you like, okay, then you're supposed to stretch the strings. I'm not sure that they are being stretched. I call it being settled. And I found this little product, piece of plastic, and it's called a stretcher, with an A at the end, because if you invent a little gizmo, then you've got to give it a silly misspelled name, stretcher. But it is functional, and it slots between, the string goes underneath there and over the top there. I'll show you. Once you've got the strings pretty much to tension, you fit this under there and then over there, fixing that string, and then you slide the string up and down, or take it up and down, all the strings, not ridiculously hard, just enough, and I think that equalizes the tension between the tuning machine and the nut and the saddle, and of course the saddle and past the pin into the bridge plate as well. So that is something that I found quite invaluable. Doing that on each string about 3 times and retuning, especially with the D'Addario excess strings that I'm using, I find that my tuning stays so much better than it ever used to. And that's about it. I shall wind up now, so if you'd all like to just move out of my workshop, I've got some stuff to do. If you have been, thanks for watching. Bye.